Hey, welcome back to our little series here. Today, what we're planning on doing is showing you how to make a basic box out of wood, because all of the skills that you'll learn when making a simple box are applicable to larger woodworking projects. I don't actually know how to do a lot of things with wood, so I am going to learn today, and as I learn, hopefully you can also learn these skills so you can apply them to making whatever else you need to make later on.
So let's get into what we have to buy for this project. It's not super expensive. Tools wise, if you have a table saw, great, but if you don't, you can cheap out with a router, and we'll get back into that in the future. But table saw or a router. Table saw is easier, but router's cheaper. For stock, a box has 4 sides, so you'll need some stock for the sides, which you can get, pre-cut at Home Depot. They have everything, and a box can be as big or as small as you want. So just keep in mind you need 4 sides for the box. Obviously, you're gonna need thinner stock for the bottom, and also we'll explain that later. And finally, a lid. So we're gonna have 3 different widths of stock here, or it could be all the same. That's up to you. I personally think a 1/4 inch bottom is perfect, and depending on the size of the box, you can get away with different thicknesses of the lid. That's just all aesthetics. That's it. That's all you'll need. For the sides we have right here, they're 5/8 each. I milled these from scrap, but you can probably get a 1/2 inch stock that's just like this at whatever hardware store you find. And then for the bottom, we have a nice 1/4 inch. Again, I milled this myself, but they also have a ton of 1/4 inch pine at Lowe's or Home Depot. Or go to your local store. They have a bunch of 1/4 inch stuff. It's widely used for a bunch of stuff. And you can even get it pre-finished if you'd like. So the lid, it can be the same size stock as your sides, or it can be a 1/4 inch. You're just gonna run into some issues. If you want to cheap out on your lid, just get an extra piece of your 1/2 inch or whatever stock you're using for your sides, and we'll run into what you're gonna do with that during the video. So for other standard materials, you would definitely need glue, a couple clamps. Depending on the size of your box, you'll need larger clamps. Personally, for this project, I have like these 12 or 13 inch long clamps. I got them in like a 6-pack on Amazon for 30 bucks, and that'll do. You really only need 1 or 2. But you could also get away with a tape method and spend 0 money on clamps. Also, for this project, if you have a miter saw and you want to do mitered ends, so a 45-degree ends where your sides meet, if you have a miter saw, perfect. If you want to just do butt joints and not worry about a miter saw, that's also fine. Just keep in mind that if you're going to do butt joints and you're going to run a dado for the bottom, you're going to see the dado on the end. And let's talk about shopping for the finish. Some people, they'll just want to do a clear coat, and some people want to stain it, some people want to paint it. If you're going to want to stain it, use 180 grit sandpaper. If you're going to want to paint it or just clear coat it, you can go to much finer grits to get it real soft. But if you're going to stain it, anything above 180 is a waste of your money. If you choose a finish, whatever stain or paint you might want, just make sure you grab that when you're out, and grab some sandpaper, and let's get into it. So our first step with building a box like this is we want to run a dado. And a dado is kind of just a channel for a piece to slide into or fit into. You'll understand what I mean when we get there, but we're gonna cut a dado really quick, and I'll show you exactly what I mean, but she's gonna do it. So what's going on right now is we are drawing the channel for the dado, and since our bottom is a 1/4 inch thick, we're gonna want a 1/4 inch thick channel routed throughout the wood, just so it can fit in that space. Pretty much we're using a combination square to draw that channel. So she just drew the bottom edge of the dado, and now she's drawing the top edge, and we can show you in a little close-up after this to show you what it looks like. The router bit that we have is a 1/4 inch shank, and it is a 1/4 inch dadoing bit. So when we run this bit down here, it's perfectly a 1/4 inch. So you can see here we have our channel drawn out for us to route the dado in here, and that is going to support the thickness of the bottom, as I said before. So let's get into that.
Okay, so I just cut a little bit wobbly channel into this piece of wood, but that's okay because it still fits. So it still works. So if you cut it wobbly like how I did, don't even worry about it because it'll still work. And this piece is more than 12 inches long, and we're planning to make a box that's 3 by 3. So we can cut all of the sides for the box out of this one piece of wood, so we don't need to even worry about cutting another dado in a different piece of wood. Okay, so now we're cutting the miters for the outside 4 sides of the box, and the first one's done here. So now we're gonna cut the second outside miter here. So you can see if we go, it's like I said before, it's gonna be a 3 by 3 box. So we just wanna make sure that it's 3 inches long to the next cut. So we want to make the next cut right here, which we've already marked off, 3 inches. And that cut will be on a 45-degree angle. And so the outside piece that you see here, that will be the side of the box, is 3 inches, but the inside will be, you know, at a 45-degree angle. So this piece in here, like this section right here, will not be 3 inches, but we're just concerned right now about making sure that the outside is 3 inches long. So what I'm gonna do now is just set this saw so at a 45-degree angle. So I am just moving it. Now I gotta loosen it. I'm just moving it over here to 45 degrees. And then tightening it up, and then we can align the workpiece and cut the miter into it, so we've got that nice 45-degree angle, so that way when we're all done, all the little edges will fit with each other in a pretty little square. Okay, so now I'm just aligning this little mark we made here with the blade to make sure that it's cut at the right spot. What I'm doing now is making sure that the saw blade is on the outside of that mark, because if it's on the inside, then the width of the saw is going to take away from the width, the 3-inch width that we measured, so it'll be the 3 inches minus the width of the blade. So we don't want that, so we want to cut on the outside of the mark. So just that looks about good. The teeth are on the outside of that mark, so now we can make the cut.
So you might be asking now that we have our first cut done, how do we proceed? Well, there's a little bit of a shortcut here. So if you take your piece of stock that you're cutting out of, the longer one, you can take that new piece that you've just cut, turn it to the long side, flip it on this long side of your stock. Just make sure your corners are pressing together pretty good. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then you can mark your new cut by just the edge of this piece right here. And that's gonna be your new cut. These will match whether or not they're a 1/16 apart from each other or whatever, apart from your original, like the size you wanted to cut. These will match perfectly. I'm just gonna make the rest of these cuts and we'll go right into assembly and teaching you guys how to do that.
So now what I'm gonna do is clean up the little burrs on the edges with some sandpaper and get it nice and smooth. Okay, so now we are going to figure out what the dimensions are of the bottom of the box. So obviously, like this, from here to here, the length of the sides of each of the box is 3 inches, but we want to know what the dimensions are for the bottom, so the inside portion of this box. So the easiest way for us to do that is to figure out basically the inside inner dimensions of the box, and then account for the depth of the little dado or channels that we created in each side. So those are a 1/16 of an inch deep. So the easiest way to do that is to just trace the inside of the box, so we can measure the interior dimensions and then just add on the dimensions of the depth of that dado. So if you don't have somebody to help you, you can just tape the corners before you trace it, so that way it's tight and you can get an accurate measurement. But I have help, so Wolf will hold this and I will trace the inside. Okay, great. So now that we've got that, we can measure because all of the sides should be equal. So we've got two. So we've got 2 1/4. And so now all we need to do is add a 1/16 plus a 1/16 to account for the depth of each of the channels, so an 1/8 total. So that is 2/8 plus 1/8, so 2 3/8. Okay, so now that we have our bottom piece cut, we're gonna glue the whole bottom part together, so all of the sides with the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is add painter's tape to each of these little joints, so that way it'll stay together while I'm trying to glue it, and I don't have to worry about it sliding around. And also the tape is flexible, so you can bend the box into shape. That's a little too much. Okay, so now I'm just putting wood glue in the miters and in the dado. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little sponge brush and kind of like even it out. So we've got this. Kind of coating it nicely. And in here, all spread around so all of the interior surfaces are coated. I mean, a little bit of a mess right here, so I'll just wipe it up. Okay. And then, okay, so now I'm just going to put the bottom piece into one of the dados and fold the box up around it. And then I'm going to take another piece of tape and tape around the entire thing to basically act as a clamp and keep the whole thing together so it dries, really sturdy. And then I'm just gonna take a paper towel and wipe off the extra glue so it's not so messy. We don't need to really sand it off so much later.
So while that box is drying, we have cut out of the stock that we had for the bottom of the box. We have cut a piece here, it's a square, that's cut to the outer dimensions of the box so it fits right on top. But we want to do something so that some part of the box fits within the interior dimensions of the box. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our router and we're going to set it. I know that the material is really thin and this is kind of a little bit of it's kind of a little bit weird working on something that's this thin and small with a router that's this big, but it's not that dangerous. Just take your time. And we're gonna rabbet. So basically we're gonna run a channel around the edge of this piece that we cut for the lid so that this interior box will fit inside of the box so that the top doesn't slide around and stuff. So it is squirrely to work on pieces this small, but if you're doing this yourself, take your time. You don't have to rush it, and as long as you're taking your time, you won't really pose any danger to yourself. I know that this tool, if it's your first time using it, it's a little scary. Just take your time, and that's it. We have the measurements on the outside of this box here that I drew on here. It is based upon the thickness of the outside of the box right here. So this right here, that's basically what I drew on here, just so I know that when I cut this part out, that this inside piece that is going to stay is gonna fit in here. So let's get into it. So here, like I said, it's not perfect. It's a little bit thin, but with some sanding and some finish, it'll look just fine. And here's how the top fits in. See, it's a little bit shaky, but not as shaky as if it didn't have that rabbet, and that's okay. Also, if you decide to add hinges or whichever thing that you want to add, that's okay too. This, just for the sake of it, that's fine. It's all just for practice anyways. If you want to learn these skills, you're gonna make a lot of things that aren't perfect until you can start to make things that you would consider yourself perfect, but nothing is ever perfect. And a lot of these skills are just good to practice and practice and practice as much as you can if you want to start making things that are exquisite, or however you want to call it. Just making great things takes a lot of patience and practice, and this is a good example of a lot of practice. So you kind of do these things over and over again until you've honed your skills enough, till you can create something that's comparable to something that you would purchase at a store, or you would purchase from somebody else that is well practiced. That's all it takes. Not perfect. And if you want to see our bonus video where we sand and finish the box, make sure you follow and leave a like and leave a comment. And also let us know if there's anything else you guys would like us to make, because that's great. Also, if there's any particular technique or portion of this video where you have further questions, leave a comment and we'll make a video about it for you. If you have any further inquiries, like, we're very open to making videos about that kind of stuff, whether or not it's a 30-minute video or a 5-minute video. Thank you so much for watching.